Hi, my name is Julianne, also known as Roadrunner, and today I want to talk about the drama between section hikers and through hikers. You may be asking yourself, what drama, Julianne? What are we talking about? And you're kind of right. It wasn't until a few days ago where I realized that the drama isn't really on trail, it's more an online thing. And there happens to be some sort of friction between section hikers and through hikers. I personally did not even realize that there was some sort of friction between section hikers and through hikers until I posted one of my videos when I was in the Smoky Mountains doing my through hike. I had complained a little bit about a situation with a bunch of other hikers that happened to be section hikers, and when I mentioned the fact that they were section hikers, I got a lot of pushback from other section hikers. And it probably was the way I communicated it. I sounded a little bit like, hey, those section hikers don't really understand what through hikers are doing. Wasn't my intent at all, but the pushback I got from section hikers was significant. And it became apparent that there was some sort of friction between section hikers and through hikers. So I recently did a community post on my YouTube asking about the different things that create the friction between section hikers and through hikers. And my subscribers were a little bit stunned by this question because they were like, really? There's friction? And after I was reading that, I did a little bit of self-reflection and I realized that's really true. There isn't much of friction while on the actual trail. Section hikers, through hikers, weekend warriors, we generally get along quite well. It's not until we voice an opinion online that it becomes a sort of wrestling, smash down argument session between the different hikers on what they perceive other hikers are doing or thinking even. If we're talking about any friction that could potentially happen actually on trail, it generally has to do with hiker midnight. So hiker midnight is perceived to be at sundown, and that just depends whenever sundown is, but usually around 9 p.m. or something like that. Other hikers are generally expected to kind of settle down and be a little bit quiet for the other hikers. Now, through hikers are super exhausted by the time they get to camp, and they are generally very likely just to start going to bed at hiker midnight and kind of settle down and sleep. Section hikers are a little bit different when it comes to that. They like to enjoy their time while camping, maybe have a campfire, talk a lot with each other, and not really caring too much about hiker midnight just because they are not planning to hike as long as through hikers and they really want to enjoy their time in camp. And I totally understand that. Whenever I do a section, I like that myself. I really enjoy going to camp, setting up my tent, hanging out by a fire, or just even hanging out with my fellow hikers and just having a really nice time. So that could be a friction time. I know it happened to me personally when I did do that section in the Smoky Mountains where the other hikers were they were obnoxious, loud, and didn't care really about the other hikers. And so I just mentioned that on my video that they happened to be section hikers, and then it just went into a slope of downhillness. And so I realized that that is a friction point because section hikers do say, why do I have to be quiet at hiker midnight? You know, the park hours are quiet time at 10 p.m., which by the way is really just an hour of a difference. And so they don't feel like they have to be quiet just because through hikers would like to sleep. I think it just comes down to the common sense of courtesy of, hey, other hikers are kind of tired, so maybe we should not try to disturb them. But then again, maybe it would be common courtesy for the thru hikers to be okay with section hikers being a little bit louder. And yeah, so it's really kind of a debating point, and this is just me talking about kind of the majority, because there are a lot of thru hikers who enjoy being loud after hike or midnight as well, and there's a lot of section hikers who are exhausted after their hike that want to just settle down and sleep. So it's not really a matter of 100%, but thru hikers are a little bit more likely to want to settle down versus section hikers are a little bit less likely. And that's just me talking from personal experience. The section hikers I've come across, really positive interactions with section hikers, they just tend to want to hang out and be a little bit louder, maybe be even on the phone, talk to their loved ones. And I mean, we do that too, but I like to talk to my loved one when I'm hiking, or maybe like a little bit at camp, but not when it's hike or midnight. I prefer to just shut my phone off at that time. So that's a point of contention between thru hikers and section hikers that may happen on the trail. And I don't know if you hear, there's thunderstorm going on outside, so it's kind of cool, rain and things like that. So if you're hearing something weird, the thunderstorm. Now, if those opinions are voiced on any sort of hiking forum, it really gets dark real fast, where section hikers or people who are not even hikers get involved in a conversation of what really is required when you're around other people. Are you supposed to be quiet or not? And there's less thru hikers, so therefore the majority are section hikers, so therefore the thru hikers should be okay with the section hikers being loud. It's not really true. When you're on the Appalachian Trail, most people that you're around, especially during the thru hiking season, those are usually thru hikers, is the ones that I've come across. And there's only a few people that really camp that are section hikers that I have come across. The whole concept is common sense of courtesy or common courtesy, that if people would like to settle down and sleep, perhaps it would be a nice thing to do to not be loud when other people try to get rest. So that's really the biggest thing when it comes to friction on the trail. It's a little bit different online. When it comes to online friction between section hikers and thru hikers, it does appear that people who are not thru hikers perceive thru hikers as non-rule followers, rude, privileged kind of people, because they are able to afford 6+ months time off to have an amazing journey. And I don't know if this comes from envy or just judgment, but it's definitely a friction and something that's kind of uncomfortable when people talk about that, because I don't believe thru hikers are privileged, rude, and don't follow rules. I think it's quite the opposite. I've been around them during my entire thru hike. I am a thru hiker. I am personally not privileged at all. I am not retired. Not that I'm saying retirement is privileged, because you worked so hard all your life to be able to do that. My parents did not help me financially to be able to thru hike. My mom did help me get my tent, which is essentially my house, so she did help me with that. But I had to save money for myself to be able to do this thru hike, and I'm not retired, and I just decided that hiking was more important to me than becoming further physically ill from the job. And that's just a matter of my story. I was not healthy, and I decided I needed to take mental and physical break from work and life. Another moment of friction between section hikers and thru hikers, at least online, seems like thru hikers might feel that weekend warriors or section hikers are not real hikers. And it's not something that I ever felt, but it seems like section hikers are very sensitive about the subject. And let's just put it out there. All hikers are created equal. We are all enjoying nature. We all suffer equally when going uphill or downhill. And so the whole idea that thru hikers believe section hikers or weekend warriors are not real hikers is not something that I've personally ever heard from anybody. In fact, a little bit the opposite, as in maybe section hikers themselves feel like they're not real hikers, because every time we came across section hikers and we'd say, hey, hi, who are you? They say, oh, I'm so-and-so, I'm just a section hiker. And it's something that's really strange to me, because I never go, oh, you're just a section hiker. Like I would never even think that way. So every time a section hiker would introduce themselves as in like, I'm just a section hiker, it just kind of felt strange, because they're hikers. Who really cares? I mean, it helps to know, hey, you're a thru hiker, okay, you're a section hiker, but to make it sound so sad that you are just a section hiker, believe in yourself, be a little bit more confident. Like, section hiking is tough because you're starting all over again every time you start a new section. So yeah, all of us are created equal. Let's just like say it. This is all I can really think of when it comes to friction between section hikers, thru hikers, or weekend warriors. There's some other parts when it comes to ultralight and not ultralight. I don't know. There's a lot of people who hate on ultralight, and there's a lot of people who judge people who are not ultralight, and it just, again, it's just kind of dumb. I like to have a little bit of a lighter pack just because I would prefer not to have 50 pounds on my back. But if somebody else enjoys having a 50-pound backpack, I came across a thru hiker, I don't remember how much his weight was, but like 40. He had like a frying pan on the back of his pack. I mean, whatever you want to carry, you carry. And I don't know if ultralight is related with thru hiking or like connected with it, and that's why there's friction there, where section hikers or weekend warriors think, oh, you're ultralight, I want to carry my luxury, and ultralighters are just weird because they barely have anything. So there's all this friction that really doesn't need to be there. When it comes to hike your own hike, this is a situation where it really applies. Like, you want to have a heavy pack? Great. You want to thru hike? Great. You want a section hike? Great. You want to go to bed early? Great. You want to stay up? Great. But be considerate of the other people. If you want to stay up, maybe stay somewhere else. Or if you want to go to bed early, maybe you would want to do stealth or dispersed camping. The only problem is when it comes to that, in the Smoky Mountains, you're required to be in a shelter. So the problem arises at that time because all the hikers are being put together, and then the friction can come up. But in general, doing any kind of hike, you can choose where to sleep. And so if you have certain preferences of noise, I mean, like, it's obvious, just camp away from those people. You want to stay up late, just camp away from other people. It's just common courtesy. So thank you. That's my rant for this weekend. I hope you had a lovely weekend, and I'll see you next time.